like I said, the Stop Killing Games has been an interesting little development, and I think, again, as I've discussed it, I think it's quite interesting for what it is, because of the fact that the way that it's is that it's very interesting because it kept being sort of, it either was proclaimed as, being a complete that it was going to be underlyingly supposedly malicious, supposedly, or that people. The interesting is that some people tried to proclaim that it was supposedly actually beneficial to the AAA industry, and the indie market is going to suffer underneath it. And yet, so far, most of the, the side that I hear within the gaming industry being mostly concerned about it is the AAA industry. And they have now already got a lobbying party setting up a whole fucking laundry list of bullshit to proclaim why they think that the Stop Killing Games movement should not do what they do, because of them proclaiming that it's going to ruin gaming as a whole. And quite frankly, I'm sitting here going like, I don't know what you fuckers are talking about, but I'm not seeing anything in here that makes me go, yeah, this is a problem. That this is going to be a concern. Because all that I'm just seeing is like, particularly what I think is an interesting concept about this is like, all that is being asked for is a means for any games that are heavily dependent on live service or online connections to give the community full access to everything. And that this is just the means that it can be handed over into the community when the studios themselves have decided to be like, yeah, we're shutting this down because we just don't see any need to continue, because they no longer see it being financially beneficial for them. Which I can understand. Like, from the business perspective, I completely understand it. But is it really somehow bad? Is it really going to cost them that much in the bottom line level of it, simply to implement a end of life program or an or something in that regard, in order to keep things afloat after they have decided to shut it down? Because I just can't imagine that this is really such a problem. Because this I'll show on stream for just a bit. I think it's still here. Yeah, I'll just... So this got a quote retweeted by Joe Cat. Hold on a second. So this is apparently something that they're stating as well about the Stop Killing Games initiative, and how it's going to negatively impact, like, the business, being negative impact on investment in games, jobs, growth, and consumer choice. Sure. Ensuring an online game can work without official server support requires a significant investment of engineering resources. You see, I refuse to believe it's that exhaustive to do, making it a very costly exercise for video game companies. Again, I refuse to believe that. Many of the costs that games companies would incur in implementing an end-of-life plan would have to be incurred towards the end of the commercial life of the game, when it is no longer commercially viable to continue support. Requirements to implement such plans could lead to less risk-taking, fewer... Fuck this. Okay, let me just finish reading this and just call out some of the nonsense. Fewer investment projects. In developing new... Fuck off. And potentially fewer jobs. Ultimately, it could lead to increased costs for consumers and less choice. Yeah, okay, I'm calling... like, you can't see it. Like, obviously, I'm behind this window at the moment. I'm not buying this. That's just it. I am not buying this. This is bullshit. And Joe Cat accurately just describes, and let's see, they cannot be saying this after so many hours of... after thousands of layoffs and AAA games rising in price even without the initiative. Yeah, exactly. Like, this smell... It is all such bullshit. And... like, this is the nonsense that they've been everything so far that has come out of this out of the counter argument brought forward by the lobbying group for the AAA industry, it's all just such nonsense. I clicked it away, so let's just break down what they're... So they're saying that the idea of an end-of-life... what is it? Yeah, an end-of-life plan for games. You know, first of all, is incurred because obviously this is an understandable thing from their perspective. Requirements to implement such plans could lead to less risk-taking. AAA industry, you never take risks anymore. You literally... You don't. I hate to break it to you, AAA industry. You know what? I'm just going to do it like this. This is something we're just going to have a discussion about in this way, because I am so not having this bullshit. So give me a sec here. I'm just going to share this because it's such horseshit. This... Okay, it's, for some reason my... let me see. Mouse cursor is... Okay, yeah, there it is. Hello? Okay, it's still not showing, but I do have my mouse cursor out. But this protecting people who have bought games is absolutely worth it, even if it costs them money. It's more important to not let the game industry to slide into a consumer is just getting a license to the game crap. Exactly. And I wanted to get on that. Like, some of this is just... First of all, they can't take any fewer risks than they're already taking. The AAA industry, I swear, companies lobbied against seatbelts in the past. They did. They have, I think. I think insurance companies used to do that. I think they actually opposed to it. But this is, like, first of all, less risk-taking. The AAA industry doesn't take risks at all. Everything they make is for the most safest course of action. They take away sometimes... They literally sometimes tell developers to dumb down game mechanics in certain styles of games because they're afraid that it'd be too complicated for the average Joe to understand, for the casual gamer. Now, I'm not against games that are made to be for as broad an audience as possible, but this is bullshit. Game companies want loot boxes in games despite their gambling predatory aspects. Yeah. And the only reason why the gacha games get away with it is because they show the success, the odds of getting the big rolls, like fewer investment projects. This is the part where it's all concerning. But they're not talking about this. This is the part where that is most important to him, because I can tell you this much: they don't want end of life plans in mind, because let's take the most primary example of all. Call of Duty. Sure, you could say Warzone does its own thing, but literally people just had to actually state that they should do that. It took them a long time to just go through with this. Fewer investment projects in developing new games. You guys never make new games. Literally, anything that is considered an actual new game is never released by AAA industries. Now, if people are going to say, oh, well, what about these and these? There are always, and it's like, yeah, that's true, and they are technically AAA. But those are the exceptions, not the rule. That's just it. And potentially fewer jobs. This one is horseshit. Microsoft is already laying off, like, what is it? 5% of their gaming department? They're already doing it. So why should I believe that this is going to cause this is going to risk more people losing their jobs? It's ultimately, it could lead to increased costs for consumers and less choice. The choice is always the same crap you guys have been churning out for years on end, slop after slop after slop. And cost for consumers. Let's not forget a few things. Switch games are being sold at $80. I'm using the dollar because I don't know if it calculates about the same in euros. Doom The Dark Ages is $80, and I like Doom 2016 and I like Doom Eternal, but I'm not forking over the $80 for Doom The Dark Ages. And let's not forget that Rockstar at least was contemplating. If not, I believe maybe even trying to justify that GTA 6, that they were trying to justify that the selling price for GTA 6 can be $100. And that's the standard edition. I'm sorry, but I refuse to believe that that's worth it. And the arguments continuing saying, well, these games are getting bigger and bigger and, require more complexity. And as much as that can be used as an argument, and again, this can be considered as the exception rather than the rule. Why is Expedition 33 $50? And it's, you're not looking at some 8-bit resolution. They have a stellar voice cast. I mean, they have Elizabeth English, or Jennifer English, sorry. So the voice actor for Shadowheart. Ben Starr. Just to name the two biggest of them all. They had mocap for cutscenes and the like. I'm sorry, but where is this argument coming from? And it's the same thing. About this is also just on the matter of about the whole thing when it comes to, god damn it, let me think for a moment. And it's the same thing, and it shows, and this is where I'm convinced that the AAA industry, both action, and this is not just publishers, but elements within the development, in the development circuit, the developers circuit at least, really do everything they can to show that the exception doesn't have to be the exception and can be the norm. And at least already the two most primary examples of that I remember, and I've talked about it before, but I think it's still worth bringing it up again, is just are Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring. Let's see. AAA game companies are collapsing under their own weight. Too stagnant, too wrapped up in trying to sell a product to consumers and not enough in creating a game for gamers. You want to know something? You are correct on a lot, but I have to correct you on one of your statements, Aquila. They're not trying to sell a product to consumers anymore. They're trying to sell an investment to shareholders. If anything is how I feel with how they're operating, this is just how I also see it. You're not wrong also on your product to consumer, but to me it feels even less like they're just trying to sell a product to a consumer. They are trying to sell an investment to shareholders, to investors. They create an idea to appeal more investors. And like I said, they want to try and sell a product to as many consumers as they can. And that's not because they want to reach the most largest audience because they'd like everyone to enjoy their game. They want to reach as large an audience, more money in, and then they can of course brag that to the shareholders again, to future investors. There's a reason the E3 just doesn't happen anymore, because every single year it became more often obvious it was just one big corporate show to entice investors, and less just a gaming show, a gaming convention for gamers. Hell, Comic-Con is more that. Comic-Con isn't even just gaming, and yet it covers a better sort of gaming convention for gamers than most of these conventions do these days. Like, I don't think it's wrong that the industry has grown to what it is, but unfortunately, as I've always kept saying it, that is also the problem with it. That is also the reason why it's gone kind of to what it is now. It has become an industry. And consumers are only important as long as they buy. You know, it's been turned into a sort of repeated video, and it was criticizing Disney, but it's becoming more and more apparent, especially in anything in the creative and artistic fields. It's just, don't question, buy product, consume product, get excited for next product. Like, the thing is, I didn't actually pay enough attention to Expedition 33, but at some point, I am gonna buy that game. There's plenty of other games that I want to buy. And the thing is, like, if they proclaim, well, things are getting more expensive because we need to hire more people. Yeah, if we have seen the kind of people, first of all, we've seen the kind of people you hire, and I'm not even talking, and you can fill in yourself what I mean by the kind of people. But then it's like, maybe stop hiring people that have clearly gone into this job purely because they just want to make cash out of it. And have apparently beef with people, and they decide who happen to like video games, and then they decide to go into this industry just to spite people. You know, that's sometimes how I feel about this whole affair when it comes to these things. They go into this because they are determined of changing things to their liking. But yeah, I think